Pavlov's dog said nothing on you. You all quiet right down when there's a chime. So I don't turn mics. There are experts who do that. So am I loud enough? Yes. Good morning. Am I loud enough now? Yes. Am I loud enough now? Yes. Okay, so some people are shaking no and some people are shaking yes. Okay, so I will use what I call my pulpit voice, and I will do my best to speak clearly. Good morning. Morning has come, Sunday is here. On behalf of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Catskills, I welcome you. I'm the Reverend Margret O'Neill. My pronouns are she, her. I'm in my elder years. My hair is chin length, light brown with silver highlights. We're going to call them silver highlights. And I'm wearing a black robe with my stole that I made last time I served in this part of the country, the stole that celebrates the rivers of the Hudson and Mohawk Valley. I have two announcements. One is a public service announcement. A yellow jacket nest has been discovered near the door into the farmhouse. So if you are allergic, you might want to stay away from the farmhouse. If you want to get stung, go for it. The nest is to the right of the door as you enter the farmhouse. And Carmen says she sprayed them and it just seemed to irritate them. So we don't want to irritate them. So but on a more cheerful note, I want to celebrate that we have two new members who joined the congregation this morning, Linda Good and Leonard Good. Linda and Leonard They come to us from the Pacific Northwest, and when anybody would say, well, why would somebody move to the Catskills from the Pacific Northwest? Well, we know, right? I mean, this is the most beautiful place, but also they have family here, and so they decided to sort of consolidate the family, and they were founding members of the Whidbey Island congregation, which is off the coast near Seattle. So, and we're married in the Seattle Unitarian Church. I found all this out today. So, so welcome, Linda and Leonard. I think people are going to really enjoy getting to know you as we go through the morning. So it is my joy to serve this Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Catskills. I'm very glad to be here with you today, my second time here. And you'll hear more from me later, but right now our worship associate, Joyce White, will provide a welcome and update on all the wonderful things that are happening here.
We are excited to have attendees both in person as well as virtually on Zoom. If you're a visitor online and would like to be added to our mailing list, you can put your name and email address in the chat box area on Zoom. If you're visiting in person this morning, you can stand and introduce yourself if you would like. Do we have any visitors? Welcome, everyone. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed you.
I'm Jody, and this is Ursula.
Hi.
Does she need a grandmother instead?
You can visit our website, uucatskills.org, to find contact information, to be added to the mailing list, and to find the latest newsletter. You will also find newsworthy items on upcoming events in our UU community. A reminder that people of all ages, children young and old, are welcome here at UU Catskills. There's a space across the hall for anyone who would like to hear the service while being able to freely move about. After the service this morning, please stay for an in-person or virtual coffee break. Please take a moment and turn off your electronic devices. Give yourself permission to be fully present here now. I have two announcements this morning. Kathy DiMatteo is reminding us that coffee hour hosts are needed for September and October. Making coffee and serving it with light snacks is all that's required. Some hosts enjoy preparing an elaborate spread, but this is not necessary on regular Sundays. More substantial fare would be appreciated when a meeting occurs after the service. Text, email, or phone Kathy DiMatteo to sign up. Her contact information is in the newsletter and directory. Next Sunday, there will be no Zoom. Everyone is invited to gather for a brown bag Labor Day picnic here in the sanctuary. Come at 10:30, the regular time, and enjoy the communion of one another's company and your favorite lunch: peanut butter, burrito, bean sprouts, black beans, hummus, gazpacho, carrots, or beets. If you care to share, bring a little extra to split with newcomers. So next week, come and bring your brown bag lunch. Beverages will be provided. Each Sunday, the Social Action Committee shares notices of an event, opportunity, or idea that provides an easy way to support our justice work beyond our four walls and inspire questions and discussions to explore during our social hour and beyond. Today, we will hear from Kathy Atwell.
Okay, so we always talk about living our values, and we say we try to live our values on a daily basis. And I know our Climate Action Committee, and specifically Kathy Kasner, has had workshops on how to diverse your income, how to make your investments environmentally friendly. So one of the things that they talked about at one of the meetings was, don't support Chase Bank. All your credit cards support big oil. And we as a congregation had Chase credit cards. And Carmen, Lois, and I, we felt really bad about this, but what were our options? And then we found out that we could get a credit card from our credit union. And we do business with the Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union. So we have new credit cards. So I am ceremoniously cutting up our Chase credit card. We aren't supporting Chase Big Oil anymore. Ta-da, okay.
Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious faith that carries no creed and welcomes all seekers. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. We are guided by the values of justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity, centered always in the power of love. We draw on many sources of wisdom and inspiration as we seek to understand the world, the universe, and the mystery beyond all human knowing. Our principles are important to us at UU Catskills, and we seek to live our values on a daily basis. We affirm that Black Lives Matter. We are a welcoming and affirming congregation for the LGBTQ community. We are a congregational affiliate of the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network, and we are an active voice in the effort to address climate change. Our sanctuary is built on the tribal land of the Lenni Lenape people, currently known as Kingston. Our prelude this morning is Ballad 2 by Frederick Chopin. Do we have any children that would like to help light the chalice? Please join me in saying the chalice lighting words which may be found in your order of service. We light this chalice in grateful, loving community. Even in the darkest of times, may its flame light paths to courage, justice, and hope. And now our unison affirmation. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations, inspired to bring our gifts of love to all living beings. May we know once again that we are not isolated, but connected in wonder and joy to mystery and miracle in the universe, in this community, and in each other.
Thank you, Joyce. And thank you, chalice lighters. I open our sacred time together with words adapted from author Dennis Covington. There are moments when you find yourself on the brink of a new experience and understand that you have no choice about it. Either you move into the experience or you turn away from it, but you know that no matter what you choose, you will have altered your life in a permanent way. Either way, there will be consequences. In this time of change and transition, decisions, new experiences, open always to the possibility for transformation. Come, as together we give shape to our highest values and deepest commitments, as we worship in its most ancient meaning. Come, let us shape, let us worship together. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing our opening hymn. It's number 1009, sort of toward the front of your teal hymnal, Meditation on Breathing.
You said you wanted to teach each part?
Yes.
Well, just
Yes. And let me get my hymn. I'm getting my act together. Okay, so let's begin with what's called the drone, which is all right. Now let's do the melody. Okay. And our starting note is I breathe in peace, together. And as we do this, I want you to watch your breathing. So take a moment, breathe in peace, and breathe out loud. And then let's begin, everybody with the drone, and then we'll have some people go to the melody, and then we'll have some people go to the desk. So I'll lead the drone. Oh, would you like to lead the drone?
Well, I've got to stay.
You gotta stay there, okay, all right, so you can lead it from there. So you'll keep on leading the drone, and then you'll do the melody, and then I'll do the melody, and you'll do the desk. Okay, all right. Breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and I breathe in, I breathe in, when I breathe out, I breathe out loud, and I breathe in, I breathe in, I breathe in peace, when I breathe out, I breathe out, I breathe out loud, and I breathe in, I breathe in, I breathe in peace, when I breathe out, I breathe out, I breathe out loud. All right, please be seated. When I come to serve a congregation, I never know whether it's a singing congregation or not. I'm so glad you're a singing congregation. Oh my gosh, such a gift. So, our story is not for children only, and since there really isn't much space for me to move around, I'll just do it from here because it is a story for everyone. And you may listen with whatever ears you bring with you. I've adapted this story from a traditional teaching story in the Sufi tradition, an ancient mystical religion within the larger faith of Islam. Once upon a time, long ago and far away, ancient water that had been gathering underground began to make its way to the surface. We don't know how water came to Earth. Perhaps it was brought by asteroids or comets or extraterrestrials, perhaps from the intense energies of new beginnings that brought together atoms of oxygen and hydrogen. But this ancient water, gathered from falling rain, from melting glaciers, rose through the earth to become a tiny stream. And the nature of a stream is that it moves, it flows, it meanders, it gurgles, it roars, and always it moves. As the stream moved, it carved a stream bed to contain its flow, and it wandered far and wide, joining with other waters to become a rivulet, a creek, a river that made its way across the landscape, moving always on the long downward slope toward the gathering place of all waters, toward its destiny, the sea. The stream had a direction, but it didn't know what the sea looked like or felt like. The sea was the idea of a destination, because a flow always has a direction, and a direction must have at least the idea of a destination. Change was constant in the life of the stream. Sometimes it would run fast and deep, carving its path, its stream bed more deeply into the earth. Sometimes the stream moved underground, flowing in hidden channels until an opening emerged so it could rise again to the surface. Sometimes the stream would gather in other waters to grow wide and slow, becoming a huge river, bringing the melting snow from the mountains to create spring floods to nourish and renew the land. The stream transformed the landscape through which it moved, changing the world even as it was changed itself. The stream provided a home to fish and frogs, turtles, snakes, and water bugs. It offered a buffet for herons, osprey, eagles, for bears and wolves, and of course for humans who fished in its waters. A stream is generous, nourishing all who make their way to the water. The stream flowed sparkling and clear through forests and woodlands, touched only by the wild creatures living there. The stream flowed through farmlands and industrial parks, towns and cities, picking up toxic pollution, until finally the Clean Water Act of 1970 was passed to protect its precious flow. It grew in the spring, changing shape and size. It shrank in the summer and froze in the winter, changing form, but maintaining its essential nature, continuing its flow, moving always toward the unknown destination of the sea. But then something changed. The climate warmed, old realities passed away, and a new landscape arose until the stream found itself slowing and growing sluggish. Its waters grew thick with mud until sadly it pooled into a brackish mud hole right on the edge of the desert. It no longer had the resources to move forward in the way it had before. The stream tried everything it had learned in its long journey. It tried going around the desert, but the desert was too wide. It tried going under the desert, but the desert was too deep. The stream kept trying every strategy it knew because the nature of a stream is to flow, and it could feel the call of that invisible destination ahead. After what seemed like a long time, as the stream just pooled helplessly, hopelessly there in the sun, it began to hear a voice whispering. "I can take you to the sea, little stream," whispered the wind. "Come with me, I'll carry you to your destination." "How could you do that?" scoffed the stream. "You're the wind, you're only made of air." "I can carry you on a breeze," whispered the wind, "but you must be very brave, for you must let go of yourself and change." "I've changed many times," said the stream. "I've been narrow, I've been wide, I've been fast, I've been slow. I survived through toxic environments, and I've nourished countless generations of creatures in my waters. I know how to change. How is changing going to help me now?" "This will be different," said the wind. "For this change, you need to know that water has three natures. You have been fluid as a stream. You have been the solid form of ice. Okay, young scientists among us, what is the third form of water? A gas, absolutely. There's one part of your nature you have not experienced. It is time to become a gas, to become a vapor. You have been willing to let go of who you've been and trust that you have within you, within your being, that still your essential nature, you may become even more truly who you are. That in transforming, you have the resources to become who you most truly are. The stream paused, reflecting. "I've been through so much change, and I've survived so very long, but now none of my old strategies are working in this new environment. I don't know how to move through this new place. And my purpose, my destination, my destiny calls me into whatever lies beyond the desert. So tell me, wind, what do I have to do?" Following the instructions of the wind, breathing in peace, breathing out love, the stream transformed into vapor on a breath, and the wind gathered it up to rise into the sky. At first, the stream was frightened, for it felt lost. It was no longer a stream, but it expanded to become vapor swirling in the open air. But the view now was like nothing the little stream had ever seen before. Not only was the whole world laid out below it, but it was surrounded by sparkling jewels. The stream realized it had become a rainbow, and that all those sparkling jewels were parts of itself. Molecules of water, droplets of moisture sparkling in the sunlight. What had been the stream realized that it was more than it had ever imagined it could be, a beautiful rainbow arcing as a signal across the sky. Next, the stream turned vapor saw that it was not alone, for the wind had whispered to other streams and ponds and even to the morning dew upon the leaves. All had turned into a gas, into vapor, and all their particles were also sparkling in the sun. As they gathered, the power of the sunlight created rainbows that filled the air as far as the eye could see. Then the rainbow stream felt itself falling and falling and falling as plop, 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 all the droplets fell together into the sea, where the wind and gravity, the currents and the pull of the moon gave the stream a peace and power it had never before experienced. The stream had indeed reached its destination and its destiny. Now it was learning new ways to bring its presence and power into the world. And every now and then, the wind would breeze by, whispering to the currents in the sea, "Come with me, rise and transform again as we continue to nourish and transform the world." And the water would rise up as vapor into the wind and be carried away to drop onto a glacier in the high mountains and begin all over again. So ends the story. And now it is time for the children to go to their classes as the adults continue our exploration here in the sanctuary. And so let us sing the children to their classes as Catherine leads us in song. For our time of reflection, I guess I don't need this anymore. For our time of reflection on this day when we bring our whole lives into this community, I bring words from Margaret Wheatley's book, Turning to One Another. There is no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Ask what's possible, not what's wrong. Keep asking. Notice what you care about. Assume that many others share your dream. Be brave enough to start a conversation that matters. Talk to people you know. Talk to people you don't know. Talk to people you never talk to. Be intrigued by the differences you hear. Expect to be surprised. Treasure curiosity more than certainty. Invite in everybody who cares to work on what is possible. Acknowledge that everyone is an expert in something. Know that creative solutions come from new connections. Remember, you don't fear people whose story you know. Real listening always brings people closer together. Trust that meaningful conversations can change your world. Rely on human goodness. Stay together. In the presence of all our words, all our joys, all our sorrows, spoken and unspoken, let us hold a brief time of silence for the small, still voice within each of us. In love, in community, and always in hope. Amen, and blessed be.
It is now time for our offering. You can give in several ways. Drop something in the basket when it is passed, use the QR code in your order of service, or give by going to uucatskill.org. We contribute to worthy organizations with our half-plate donation. The money will be shared among 8 charitable groups. Please give generously. Our offertory this morning is Ballad 4 by Frédéric Chopin, played by Catherine Catabiani.
Honoring the spirit of interdependence and generosity, in deep gratitude centered in love, thank you for these gifts of the heart. In the process of learning from the experience of other congregations, at the Albany congregation several weeks ago, somebody actually stole the collection basket while it was sitting out. And so we're going to just start tucking it under the pulpit. If you want to steal the basket, you're going to have to go through me. It's just, you know, things, right? Life. People talk all the time about change, and there's much wisdom in the things we say about change. Only change is unchanging. Any change exhausts our store of valuable energy and leaves us empty, one step closer to death. Be the change you want to see in the world. Change is inevitable, except from a vending machine. The only person who really likes change is a baby with a messy diaper, or maybe not, given how some babies respond to that change opportunity. They resist it. People have always talked about change. Heraclitus, who lived about 2,500 years ago, was most famous for his teaching that change is central to the nature of the universe. And I'm certain that people have always complained about it, though there's good evidence that the rate of change these days is indeed accelerating. Changes in technology, changes in communication, changes in the climate, changes in what we know. More new information is now generated each year alone than was generated throughout the entire past 5,000 years. The amount of new technical information is doubling every 2 years. These are simply the realities of our lives. We're immersed in change, and much of it we simply Much of it we simply choose to ignore because it's just too much to keep up with it all. This congregation is in a liminal time. Our faith tradition is in a liminal time, a threshold moment, a time to reflect upon the quote adapted from author Dennis Covington that I used as our call to worship today. There are moments when you find yourself on the brink of a new experience and understand that you have no choice about it. Either you move into the experience or you turn away from it. But you know that no matter what you choose, you will have altered your life in a permanent way. Either way, there will be consequences. There's nothing easy about change. Change has consequences. Change can be welcome, perhaps exhilarating, and change can be frightening. When things change, sometimes we're glad, while at the same time, we might not know how it all fits together anymore, what to expect, what will happen next. Maybe we don't know how we fit in. We speak of change as coming on a wind, the onrushing winds of change, blowing things about. Change turns the world inside out. It disrupts our familiar patterns. It defies our notion of how things ought to be. When things change, when a beloved dies, when someone leaves, when someone begins acting in new ways we don't understand, when a tool or an appliance or a vehicle we use all the time breaks down and must be replaced, when something we're used to is suddenly different, when something about ourselves changes so that we can no longer do the things we used to do, when a loved one, a spouse, a child, a sibling, a parent, a beloved creature companion changes so we no longer know them in the same way, when there is a change, our world can be turned inside out. Change may come on gradually in a series of incremental steps, but often we notice it all in one gulp, so that no matter how gradual, it comes as a shock. We know that people get sick and die, that tools and clothing wear out, that the owners of our favorite restaurant or bookstore might sell the business and move on. We may need to change schools or jobs. We may not be able to maintain the home where we lived in precious times with our beloveds. The buildings we've loved and cared for may no longer best fit our needs. As much as change is universal and constant in a time of change, we may still feel a sense of loss and betrayal. I've experienced various changes, losses and gains, ups and downs in my personal life, of course, as anyone would simply by living through 7 decades or so. And the work I do now, my ministry, is all about helping congregations make their way through times of change and transition. You'd think I'd be used to it, right? Yeah, no, not really. I don't think we ever really get used to change. Even I, a change professional, relish that feeling of security and calm when things are familiar, just as I expect them to be. I get up in the morning, my muscles work, the toaster toasts and the coffee maker perks or drips, and all is right with the world. And I also know that when there is a change, I can get that sense of uncertainty, a feeling of being overwhelmed, perhaps feeling stranded in some place outside of what I know how to do, like the little stream at the desert. And sometimes I feel alarm, anxiety, and even fear when I'm in unfamiliar territory. And for me, that's the hardest part of change, the unknown, the ambiguous, that sense of feeling lost in between the past and the future and not sure what to do. That part of change is just really hard. This is not just my experience or yours, but it's part of the universal experience of change. I've learned in my life and in my work that change is an event, but the experience that accompanies a change is the transition through which we move in the process. The journey of transition, according to author William Bridges, consists of 3 stages. Stage 1 of transition is the ending, as every change implies that something ends. As Bridges says, quote, "The starting point for dealing with transition is not the outcome, but the ending you'll have to make to leave the old situation behind. Psychological transition depends on letting go of the old reality and the old identity you had before the change takes place. Transition starts with an ending. The feelings associated with stage 1 include loss and doubt, pain and possibility, feeling unsettled and denying or resisting. In the story I shared earlier, when the stream arrived at the edge of the desert and all its well-established strategies for problem solving and change were not working, the stream moved into frustration and despair, a hopeless puddle. And then the wind offered a solution that required that the stream release the identity and structures that had served it well, taking on a new form and trusting that it would survive the experience. The stream had entered the first stage of its most challenging life transition, leaving behind the unknown and entering a new journey, a journey into possibility. So what happens when we're part of a community that owns the change? When it's up to us to come together to make a decision or a series of decisions about how we move into the future? In this congregation, after making the collective decision in June to sell this beloved property that has become more than you can reasonably maintain, you're experiencing the first stage of transition, that point of loss and leaving behind. And it's important to acknowledge that. Even though this is a collective congregational decision, it's also deeply personal to each member of this community. You are moving through this change and transition together and as individuals. Last Sunday, in the discussion about whether to accept the purchase offer that you will be deciding on today, I wrote down some of the questions that I heard under the discussion, under the issues you raised in the discussion. Some of those questions were, if we sell this property and move, will I have what I need? Will I still be who I am? Will we still be who we are? Will we be able to honor our values? Are our leaders hearing and sorting through all of the voices, all the wisdom, knowing that in their listening, they need to sort through all the options and possibilities and come to a decision? Are we making the best decision we can to carry us toward our destination? These are all absolutely valid questions, the questions that come up in stage 1 as you prepare to let go of the past and rise into an unknown future. And that is where the Serenity Prayer can be a resource to us all, across all our diversities in identity and belief. This prayer apparently originated with theologian Reinhold Niebuhr in the middle of the last century, a time of devastating global conflict we call the Second World War, a time that called into question the very essence of our humanity. Niebuhr's original and preferred wording reads, quote, "Give us grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things that should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other." The more popular version that has evolved to read, "Grant me serenity. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference." Stage 1, that sense of loss when a change is inevitable and the journey of transition begins, calls us into serenity, breathing in peace, breathing out love. You have affirmed by vote that it is time for this congregation to design a new way into the future. So now we may notice what we're feeling and release our resistance to the change. Stop trying to go around or dig beneath the desert that blocks our way and rely on the depth of our inner knowing that even with a change in location, a change in form, our core identity remains intact. Water is still water, bonded atoms of hydrogen and oxygen, whether it takes the form of liquid, solid, or vapor. And the transformation of moving into a lighter form offers new possibilities for beauty, the rainbows in its journey to its destiny. This congregation, however you move forward, is still living into your mission of diversity, community, growth, and action, continuing to work for transformation of the world toward more wholeness, justice, and peace. Yes, that is who you are. Stage 2, the second stage of transition, begins once we have cast off, risen on the wind, and left the old behind us. We find ourselves in the open air, floating through a neutral zone between the old reality we've left behind and the new reality that has not coalesced. This is a time, as William Bridges says, when, quote, all the old clarities break down and everything is in flux. No one knows the answers. This is a neutral zone, uncertain and often scary, a time of confusion, discomfort, and discovery, since we can feel adrift in unknown territory and it's difficult to get our bearings, end quote. This is the time that calls us into courage, courage to accept the new challenges, to own the change and make it your own. This is a time ripe with possibility, when unexpected rainbows may appear with new beauty, new partnerships, new resources, and spaces as you enter the unfolding future, still essentially who you are, but perhaps in new space, in a new form. And then finally, in our journey of transition, we catch a glimpse of our destiny, even as we're still muddling about in the ambiguity of the second transitional stage. That destiny, the sea, the shore, a new place with new possibilities, is stage 3 in the journey of transition, our new beginning, when we embrace the new reality and make it our own. And that is where the deep wisdom of the Serenity Prayer comes into play, when we're actively designing the structures and programs, moving into the leadership to support our mission, diversity, community, growth, and action in new spaces with new resources and partnerships that help us become who we most truly are. As you move today more deeply into the first stage of your congregational transition, which is both collective and also deeply personal for each individual among us, may we commit ourselves to the journey, finding within and among us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the trust to explore new forms and to be lifted into the unknown, and the courage to change the things we can, to actively engage with the possibility as we float into unfolding possibilities, and the wisdom to know the difference, to engage with and create new spaces, new partnerships and resources, and to maintain the essence of who we most truly are, to live ever more fully into your mission of diversity, community, growth, and action. So may it be. So we don't really know exactly where we're going, but we know we will, and we can get there. So I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in our closing hymn, number 1020 in your teal hymnal, Wo Ya Ya.
Heaven knows where we are going.
seated. As we move now from this time of worship into a time of refreshment and then into the congregational meeting, may we be always open to learning new ways to bring our presence and power into the world. May we attend to the whisper of the wind and the currents of the sea. Come with me, rise and transform again. Let us live into our mission of diversity, community, growth, and action as we seek always to nourish and to transform the world. So may it be. Amen. And blessed be. Let us now join in the words of extinguishing the flame as they're printed in your order of service, as Joyce extinguishes the flame. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. So the meeting will begin at what time, Kristen? 11:45, and my watch says it's now 11:33. And so we have wonderful refreshments. Karen has organized the refreshments for today, and then we will gather in a few minutes.